Hello everyone and welcome to the Anime Zillia, and thank you for joining me as we talk about the new long-awaited anime series, The God of High School. And honestly, this episode was disappointing. Especially when you're looking at it from a kick-off point of view. Kicking off the series, you expect the episode to come out the gates and give you some good, interesting characters, some great story building that you can pretty much get behind, or an idea of where the plot is going. With this, we don't really get any of that. Now, I'm personally someone who has read the first 300 chapters of the webtoon series of this anime, and I will be obviously comparing the anime to the webtoon counterpart, but even without reading the webtoon series, I still think that I would be disappointed after all the hype I've seen from this series, especially with this opening episode. As from a story writing perspective, there wasn't any build-up or like any kind of character development or building. It was literally just oh, we got a big tournament. Here's a few things we need to explain. Here's this, here's that, here's that. What? We've missed. What? I have no idea what's going on, and that's pretty much what it was. It was kind of like we're just going to throw out that we're doing interesting fights right at the beginning and see how people react. And honestly, the characters, I don't really seem that interested at them at the moment. For me personally, I like characters that develop and characters that build. I like good story building and world building, and this really fell short for me, honestly. It felt more like a second episode to an anime series than an opening episode. This feels like, hold on a minute, did I miss out an episode already? And when you think like that, and it's only the opening one, you're kind of left going, well, what are they going to do now? Personally speaking, I'm not going to get into the controversial kind of debate of what series is better, but I can understand now how the Tower of God fanbase felt with all the missing content that was left out. Honestly, it's only the first episode, so I'll give it some leeway and hopefully they'll correct their mistakes moving forward. But like I said, I've read most of the webtoon series, and these reviews may contain minor spoilers as I talk about different aspects that basically impact based on either the content that's given to us or the content that is left out on the overall storyline. So then, with all that out of the way, let's talk about episode 1 and my just general impressions on certain bits from it. Honestly, like I said, it was a bit of a letdown, especially when you compare it to the source material. They've got a great bundle of story and characters, development, showcasing in that source material, and yet they decided not to show us that right off the bat. And honestly speaking, I think that's a big mistake. A lot of key things from the webtoon version was missing, and that stuff was stuff that really made me enjoy and get grasped by the actual series itself. Yes, I like action, but at the same time, I prefer character building and story and development. And an example of this would be the recruitment. We see in this episode that basically our three main characters, that being Dawe, Morijin, and Maria, they're all in this tournament. We don't know how they're in the tournament, but obviously if you read the original source, you would know that basically they were recruited by the committee members. The people that we see in the black suits basically in this episode. And that's even hinted at in this episode, but we're not shown anything. I thought as soon as we saw that, I think it's Q looking at Morijin, or the other way around, I thought that basically we were going to get a bit of a flashback to when he was being recruited. That would have been awesome. Nope, we didn't get that. And for me, that was a key element because it allowed me to kind of sympathize and see what motivates and interests these characters, which told that whoever wins the tournament can get their own wish. At this point, we have no idea what the wishes are. That's fine, it's only episode 1, but at the same time, I don't find myself being pulled towards or interested in any of these three main protagonists. And that's something that's a big problem for me personally, because again, I like character development, and yes, you can say that, oh, well then you can develop characters later on down the road, but at the same time, you're giving me all these characters, and I'm just there don't want them, not going to invest in them. That's one thing that I think really let this show down for me personally. Again, this is a personal review. You may think completely different. Morijin using kick on weaker opponents is another example of things that was kind of left down. He tests his strength of his opponents to see whether or not they'll be able to handle his kicks, because his grandfather, who we saw in this episode, taught him that basically if you're going to fight, don't use your feet on weak opponents. They can't handle it. In this episode, we see him just kind of kicking everybody, left, right, and centre, not really worrying about whether or not they're stronger than himself, which kind of just makes him, no more than a street thug. However, this episode wasn't that terrible. I mean, there were some good things that I really did like. There were a few things, bad things, and there was a few good things. For example, the intro. The intro was brilliant. That music, it got me hyped for the episode. I was so happy to see that intro, and the graphics weren't too bad. And it did give us that small hint as to how far the series might go. Did you catch it? Well, we can presume that the season should go up to season 2 of the webtoon comics or series, because there's one image that is shown, and that image shows the character known as Leopold. A character that I'm not going to go too much into because it is quite spoiler territory, because he does appear quite late in terms of number of chapters within the series. So, do I think this is a good thing that the series is going to introduce this character? Personally, I don't have an issue. As long as the story is still well fleshed out, the characters are still well fleshed out, and it gives us that impactful fights that we see from the source material. That's the one thing I really do want to see. When reading the webtoon version and reading the fights and seeing them, I was blown away by how well the story was written. So if they can get all the small details and showcase them all in a great way that helps make the fight scenes more impactful instead of just like a brawl and a punch and done, then that would make me happy. Pay attention to small details, make us really invest in both the characters and the story, just like the original source did. So, it's not really me ranting, but I just have a little bit of fear moving forward based on this first episode. Again, first episode, not going to be too critical, although I am kind of being critical. Another good thing was the animation. Personally, I thought it was quite nice. It wasn't too different from the original art style of the webtoon series. It was manageable. You could still watch it and it flowed quite nicely, especially with like the fights and the kicks and stuff. I thought that the type of style they went with the animation fits the show very nicely. So, good job on that one. That didn't bother me that much. Now, one thing that really was a little bit disappointing, which I hope corrects and proves that I personally am wrong. I'm someone that can be wrong. I'm just a guy on the internet giving my opinion on something. But the thing that I really didn't like was Mori Jin's voice actor. Now, the main protagonist has to have a voice that suits them. I find that quite often, anime shows and seasons can do a really good job at getting the voice correct for their main protagonist. This one, unfortunately, it leaves me with a few doubts. Simply because when you know that the story is going to become more serious as you go on through the season, I just don't see this voice working in a serious situation. This episode was quite comical, quite comedic, which is not a bad thing. It's quite good, the fact that we can have some laugh and chilled out moments. But when the character of Morojin gets serious, then I always imagine his voice being a little bit more kind of a darker tone. But this one, I'm just not sure. Again, I hope I'm going to be proved wrong later on down the road, but only time will tell. Another decent thing that I thought was pretty good was the display of the wristbands that was being featured. We get this feature within the show where the fighters, competitors, whatever you want to call them, they have to wear these wristbands. And basically, it's very clear and easy to read for us as the audience as to what is being displayed on those wristbands. I thought that was a great kind of visual representation. The fighters are given nano machines within their bodies to kind of allow the spectators and other people, the medical team, to basically monitor in real time the fighters' kind of vital levels and stuff, preventing death, basically. They can fight as long as they, until they're knocked out or until they surrender. And obviously this nanotech machine and the wristbands can always help the officials kind of know when the match has to stop. Otherwise someone is going to die. You see things displayed like HP of a character. You see the levels of a character. And something called GP, which I'm not going to get into or explain because it's not like kind of explained in the episode, and it's also a topic for another time. The only thing that I didn't like about this scene though was the advertisement around the ring and on the backboard. I'm sorry, but Crunchyroll giving their advertisement and putting their logos over the entire series, for me, it was horrible. I did not like that at all. I know they're the sponsor and it's a Crunchyroll original, but at the same time, why? It takes away from it. I get it's like a sporting event, so they need advertisements and stuff, but couldn't they like just make up logos and put them there? I don't know. I just thought it was weird. The other thing that I will say is, though, that something that was also another change from the source material, and I know I sound like a broken record, but I'm just going to say it anyway, because I know someone in the comments might pick up on it of me if I don't say it. But there was something more to these wristbands in the original source. Now, they might actually pick up on this in another episode, so in episode 2. So if they do that, then obviously brilliant. So I'm not going to talk too much about it, because again, I could spoil things. But in case you come back next week, which I hope you do, then if they haven't mentioned it or if they haven't stated anything, then be sure to know that I'll talk about it. Comedy-wise, it was okay. I'm glad Maria getting hit by a signpost was still in there. That was still present, made me laugh, funny. And yes, the underwear scene where Morihjin pulls down the trunks of this like intimidating looking dude did make me laugh. The elephant sound effect really did help as well. It was a bit of rude humour, but again, I thought it worked quite nicely. You know, it's what it is, really. Overall, though, I thought the episode was okay. It wasn't anything too special, especially when you're looking at it as like an opening episode that's meant to grab your attention. I know sometimes shows can be a little bit slow starting off or a bit confusing at the first, so you need to give it a couple of episodes to kind of see how things plan out, and I'm certainly going to do that myself. I'll give this season at least 3 episodes to decide whether or not I'm going to carry on reviewing it. Hopefully it does make me change my mind though, because I really do like the webtoon version, and I'm having a blast reading through that. So hopefully this season doesn't disappoint. Again though, I don't really find myself liking or being drawn to any particular character as of yet. I don't have enough context or backstory, only episode 1, but at the same time, that's something that was very prevalent in the original source, is that they made you aware of the characters and what the situations were before they started fighting. They built up the characters, they built up the story, they built up the world before they went into the action. The action was kind of like the second part in the source material, where the characters were the main focus. And this obviously seems like it's been swapped around. So it might have been a misinterpretation on the producer's side, but again, it was just a bit of a bloop bloop, in my opinion. If I had to say a character that I liked just based on this first episode, then I guess it would have to be Maria, where by the same point of where this episode ends, in the webtoon version, it would have been Dawi. But I'll keep my mind open and see what the next few episodes give us. Like I said, I'll give it 3 episodes to see how it goes. Hopefully it'll give me something to change my mind about. But yeah, I do want to know what your thoughts are down in the comment section below. Did you like it? Do you think I've been a bit too critical of this this opening episode? And I should have waited a bit longer before I criticise some things? All your thoughts, I'd love to hear them. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Like the video if you like the video. Dislike if you dislike. Let me know why though. You can say, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And then, I don't know. I can see what your views are differently. But again, if you're new to the Animezilla, then make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss a video from me. I'll do more content like this. I've got Tower of God reviews coming up from the webtoon version. I've got other anime related stuff. I think I'm going to be doing Sword Art on Sunday when it comes out. Yu-Gi-Oh! From time to time. It's a great time. Come hang out. Other than that though, have a great day. Arigato, matane, goodbye.